rematched again here out on the racetrack.
You don't think they're carrying that soccer right to Burke Lakefront, do you, Sam?
Well, maybe thoughts of it anyway. They're both big fans.
This is a battle for ninth. That's Willie T. Ribbs, and Arie Luyendyk is just moving around. Luyendyk's having a great day. He started 22nd, so he's chopped his way up through the field very efficiently.
Well, you saw his car take a big wiggle, the blue and white car of Luyendyk. You have to watch him close, because in some of these turns you watch a guy get really sideways and quiver right back straight, almost before you can see it if you're not looking close.
Willie T. Ribbs, while he is in the shot, is not in the fight. He runs 17th, a lap behind Luyendyk and Boesel. A lot of conversation here this week about Raul Boesel and what his future may be. Bobby, were you in on any of that?
No, I really wasn't, but he's one heck of a good driver, and he's with the Dick Simon team. That's really been a pretty good team, and they put a lot of their emphasis into that car, which is not a rental car. That's one of their race cars.
Well, of course, the issue, Bobby, was whether he would be staying with the team. Apparently, in Brazil, newspapers reports had him fired from the team. I think the genesis of all that was back when Nigel Mansell was flirting with Formula One, maybe going to leave the Newman Haas team. Haas thought he might need another driver for the second half of this season, and one of the people he approached was Boesel. Boesel said, yeah, I'd consider that if that ride was offered to me. Because of that, Dick Simon, his car owner, then sort of said, well, maybe, I'm not going to have Raul Boesel for the rest of the year. Now, apparently, it's all been patched up. I mean, it was a wobbly moment for both Simon and Boesel, but they're back together again. Mo Nunn has been fired from the team, their engineer, but Simon and Boesel are still together.
Well, Sam, I don't think that Boesel is going to be leaving that team, would be my guess. And I think Carl Haas is looking at some other drivers, but if I was Boesel, I would definitely try to get it.
Yep.
Raul, who started 19th up in that fight with Luyendyk, as we watch the 40 car of Scott Goodyear. Remember, he had his problems on the start of the race and now is trying to get back in the fight as well, but still well down in the running order.
Here's a boy that hasn't really had an awful lot of luck this year. Things in that team are really not clicking. That's one of the... Here's the telemetry we had. Now look at the RPM on the middle deal there. He was on up at 12, a little bit better than 12,000 there. Let's see if they have the same concept. There's about a 12.4. No, about a 13,000 there.
Yeah, he's pushing it pretty hard.
Delco telemetry here gives us something a little different with the lateral G's. Now remember, Scott Goodyear used to be a race driving instructor. In fact, one of his students was Paul Tracy. And he'd look at something like this lateral G's, which tells him how much energy he is really throwing left and right as he goes through these corners.
And on the right-hand side, you can see the throttle up to 100%. That means it's wide open. You can see Scott is not using as much throttle as he'd like to be. This, of course, when that yellow is clear to the top on the right-hand side, that's what makes the car go faster around here.
Well, Goodyear's 6th Cleveland start. His best finish here has been 10th.
Electronics are revolutionizing this sport, and as they take their form in telemetry, it means that every move the driver makes out on the course can be analyzed both by himself and by his engineers. It means you really have Big Brother looking over your shoulder when you drive now. If you say, hey, I'm going into that turn flat out, then they look at the telemetry afterwards and say, no, you're not. Well, you're not.
You used to be able to fib in your days, didn't you, Bobby?
Yes, you could. Right now, today, they just look on the sheet and say, hey, boy, this doesn't agree with you.
Bobby, of course, never did.
Al Unser Jr. runs in the lead. Nigel Mansell still in 2nd place as we continue to watch the fight here in Cleveland, Ohio. We'll be back after this message. Back at the Burke Lakefront Airport here in Cleveland as we watch Nigel Mansell continuing to try to catch the extremely elusive Al Unser Jr., who runs in the lead by 17 seconds. Not even in view of Nigel. He knows he's out there, but he can't catch him.
You know, Paul, the one thing I've noticed about Nigel, we have an onboard camera. We watch him from the other cameras. He's trying harder today than I've seen him try in a long time, and he's been taking a lot more chances, bumping people, really trying hard. So that tells you how much advantage the Penske car has with little Al's.
Well, of course, one of the things is with Emerson Fittipaldi right behind Nigel, he has plenty of inspiration for going hard, and particularly for making difficult passes. And he's going to have to make 2 tough ones with Boesel and Gugelmin right ahead of him on the road right now.
Now, neither one of those are going to give way because they're in a battle by themselves. And the other fear, of course, that Fittipaldi
he just wasted time there.
Wasted a great deal. Fittipaldi's problem is going to be that if Nigel gets past one of them, they may see Nigel, but they may not see Fittipaldi, so he's going to have to tiptoe.
It took Fittipaldi this whole time to reel Nigel in after Nigel made that good pass on Michael Andretti and another one on Teo Fabi. We saw that about 10 minutes ago, and it's taken that long for Emerson to reel him back in again. That's how important the passing is.
You know, I know there's a lot of talk about Nigel leaving the IndyCars. I hope that doesn't come to pass. It has been a real joy watching him here today at this track a year ago when he and Fittipaldi went side by side, lap after lap, not giving any place on the course, literally side by side through every corner.
And if you leave it up to Emo, it's going to happen again, because Emo's really, look at Emo, how hard he's working on him, using every bit of drafting he can do, using every bit of advantage, trying to capture Nigel with the traffic. I mean, Emo's working as hard as you ever seen him work.
Meantime, though, Al Unser Jr. is pulling away, and one of the discouraging things for the opposition of Al Unser Jr. is that he starts fast, and he actually gets faster relative to the opposition as his tanks lighten. He was 17 seconds ahead a few laps ago. He's now up to 20 seconds ahead.
And that is that fight for 8th and 9th. Gugelmin and Boissel sitting just in front of them. Pit stops are due within a couple of laps here. So the pressure will be on the crew of this man. Now, if you want to talk team racing, this is when you see it the most. There's nothing he can do while he sits in the pits. But what can happen is they can lose precious time and distance on the race course if they take too long with a pit stop. So the Penske team, one of the best in the business at it, anticipating the stop of Al Unser Jr. here within a lap or two.
Well, you know, you speak of the quality pit work of the Penske team, and, you know, we've been talking about this almost as long as modern motor racing has existed. The Penske pit stop. It's alliterative, and you think, my gosh, they are the best. One of the reasons for that, I think, is the continuity in that team. Their mechanics stay with them year after year after year. A tradition is built up, and it's maintained.
As I watch little Al going around the corners, I see his tires literally coming off of the ground.
On board with Nigel, but he may have more problems than we think. He brushed the wall earlier. This is a lap earlier. Keep an eye on number 1 there.
Oh, look at that. That's
just
fire.
one
Rear tire only, though.
That was fire, was a magnesium. The wheels are made out of magnesium.
And the leader, Al Unser Jr., is in the pits. Let's go to Jack.
Well, Paul, direct your attention to the front of the car, the wing area. The word we've received is that Al Unser Jr. has requested a wing adjustment. After they complete their work, we'll look to see if they give him it. Looks as if they won't. They may have thought better of it. Stay with what you've got. In 13.7 seconds, a nominal, normal pit stop for Team Penske once again.
Yeah, I'm not so sure I'd want to change something working that good.
Nigel, of course, has now had contact with Mario with his right rear wheel and with the wall with his left rear wheel.
That's both rear ends.
Would you want to be driving that car, Bobby? I don't know.
Maybe it's back in line now. So Al Unser Jr., the leader, makes his second stop. That gives the lead over to Nigel Mansell, but of course he is due in very shortly, as is Emerson Fittipaldi, Paul Tracy, and the rest of the front of the order.
Now, the one you saw with Nigel going out and hitting the wall with his left rear, now I promise you, that could hurt something a little bit. When you saw all that magnesium flare up, it takes some pressure to do that.
But if it's only in the wheel, then this pit stop should cure the problem, right?
Yes, and they'll change that for sure, Paul, and it definitely hurt the wheel for sure.
Well, you're just in front of that wheel that is the question mark. Gary Gerould is waiting while the Newman Haas team is ready to do some repairs. Maybe they can button the camera down a little bit too. Gary?
They warned him of speed as he came down pit road. No problems. We can see where the left rear brushed the wall. Actually, they call it white walling the tire. Mansell, who ran in Formula One at France last week, said it was smooth as a billiard table. Said when he came to Cleveland, it was a real shock to the system. But in 14 seconds, he's back out and no apparent damage to any of the suspension.
And I hope careful about the speed limit. His teammates suffered from that earlier. Jack?
Well, Paul Tracy gets out and away as well. They made a wing adjustment on his car. He does not exceed the speed limit, at least according to the one that was posted. The only member of Team Penske left to pit.
Whoa.
Michael Andretti down inside of Paul Tracy, Jack.
One of the things, Sam, that happens, you know, there is a right-hand turn as you exit pit road. You are literally high up on the throttle, and you find yourself weaving right into turn number 2. So it gets a little dicey coming out of the pits.
Well, exactly, Jack. We just saw some of the better racing of the day right there at that turn you described.
Emerson Fittipaldi in now, Jack Arute.
And Emerson Fittipaldi looking to make up time. The crew goes to work. We'll see if they make any adjustments on the machine or not. It looks as if it's going to be only tires. Rick Reineman and the team, they check the radiators for debris, taking on a full load of fuel. They drop the jacks, and Emerson is away in 14.7 seconds. And he almost has a problem going out of pit road as he found traffic overcoming him on driver's right.
That was Gugelmin who came out along with Fittipaldi, and of course Al Unser Jr. will move back into the lead of the race, and Nigel Mansell and Fittipaldi will come out side by side in a battle for position.
There's Nigel right in front of, Emerson right in front of Nigel now, and maybe this is Nigel's best moment to get by him right there under braking.
Now, they didn't see that coming. Nigel was not expecting that. That was a total surprise to him. But boy, did he react at the next turn.
Isn't it amazing, given the number of variables in a pit stop, pulling in, getting the car stopped, having it all happen to your car, and then getting back out, that they resume exactly the way they left off.
Look at they come out now. Of course, Nigel is on a little warmer tire, so it's sticking a little bit better. First, he gets past, and then he comes right back and takes over the position.
And you notice how quickly Emo moved over into an aggressive position where Nigel had to go around him.
Emo did a good job there.
They both did.
So Nigel Mansell in a battle with Fittipaldi is back into second place. The leader is Al Unser Jr., and we are having a great time in Cleveland. 62 laps of 85 complete. Al Unser Jr. is still the leader as we look at beautiful downtown Cleveland. Boy, I'll tell you what, we've had a great time in this city, and all that smoke belongs to Arie Luyendyk, who rolled to a stop with what looks to be a turbocharger fire. No danger to the driver here on the front stretch.
Obviously,
I'll tell you what, there is no such thing as a bad seat in the house here. Everybody gets to see everything.
Yeah, the whole racetrack is like that. Arie's fire, incidentally, is a turbocharger, like you said, Paul. And it's from an engine blowing, obviously. The oil gets in the turbocharger. There's really no fire left, but you can see it coming out of the pipe of the turbocharger. Not really hurting anything right there. It's just the oil from the engine that got up in there.
Too bad. Arie and his group, Regency Racing, were having a fairly good day, moving into the top 10 and very definitely in the fight.
I think it would have been a lot safer, of course, with the truck out there to have pulled that car off into the grass right there. That's a place where the cars come out of the turns, get really wide, and go right in the groove where he is.
Arie, of course, wants to run across the straightaway because it's the shortest distance to the pits, and the IndyCar safety people said, nah, I don't think so. Fifth place car, Jacques Villeneuve.
He's really one aggressive driver. The guy in the blue and white car, the player's car there, he's the most aggressive young man I have seen in years, Paul.
And easily, wouldn't you say, Bobby, the discovery of the season?
I think he's the discovery of many seasons that we've had. Right, I think he's really good.
He's leading in the Rookie of the Year points, leading Scott Sharp, who's also having a good season, but nothing as spectacular as this young man.
Top Reynard in the field right now, looking very solid. Just ahead of him is Willie T. Ribbs, a service merchandise car.
Willie is always good for a quote, and I asked him yesterday what it was like to drive around this track. He said, it's as bad as a rough night in Harlem.
Well, there's a good race driver in the